It's like, I was ready, now I have to wait.
3, 2, 1, go.
6, 5, 4, 1 live. Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to the channel. You're watching Ghost Girl Diaries podcast. Welcome to the new year. We finally made it out of 2020. Thank baby Jesus and black magic. Quite literally, it was so bad. Like, I feel like we just skated right through like the end. You know, it's actually funny because last night I called Kat. I think I was like, we were Snapchatting. And I did this snap filter, and it said, like, you have 8 hours left till 2021. And then she snapped me again. I snapped her back, and it was like, you have 6 hours left in 2021. I was like, doesn't it feel like time's going so slow? Like, what's going on? Like, can we get this moving? Like, and then last night, she called me, like, right before midnight, well, about an hour before midnight, my time. she's like, God, like, I've been in 2021 for 2 hours. I'm like, I'm still not there yet. Like, I'm literally waiting to get there. I don't know what's going on. So anyway, welcome to the stream, guys. I'm going to bring in my co-host in 1 second. This is going to be a really big changer for the year. I'm coming back on podcasts every Friday, which is really exciting. I'm not only going to have Kat as my co-host, but since we lost a few other co-hosts in 2020, I'm going to be bringing in EILFIE from Paranormal State. She'll be here a couple times a month. And I'm also having Seth, our artist, fill in once in a while for a male perspective. He's actually very skeptical when it comes to things. I'm hoping eventually I can bring in a couple permanent people down the road, but we're not going to push it right now. We're just going to wait it out and let the universe bring the right people to us. So anyway, I'm going to bring in my co-host, Miss Cat CORMIER. How are you, Miss Cat?
I am doing so well. Thank goodness it's 2021.
I know, right? How did you do surviving the new year?
I did well.
Yeah.
I did well and I slept great. So, it's a great time.
Out like a light.
Pretty much. 2021 hit and I'm like, all right, see you in the new year. No.
Bye. See you later.
Pretty much, yeah.
So let's back up for 1 second. So this topic we've been wanting to do because there was a documentary called The Devil's Road that was released last year on Travel Channel. We watched it then. It is about the Warrens and the Warrens' legacy. Yeah. But then we were like, obviously, let's just get through this year because there's just some weird things. Everybody just needed to get through 2020 before we restarted this. So here we are. A couple days ago, Kat and I start comparing notes for the Warrens negotiations. Now, also, if you guys remember, Kat has met Annabelle, like, in person. And she has shared that horror story before.
Horror story, yeah. It's exactly that story, actually.
Right. So, we had nightmares the other night.
An incident.
Had an incident. So I called Kat the next morning and I said I had the weirdest dream. Should I tell mine first or you want to tell yours first?
I mean, I'll tell mine. I'll tell mine and then we'll go off of it. So essentially, I don't know what it is about Annabelle, but she likes to, step in and create a little ruckus every time I see her in, like, a show. And mind you, in the documentary, she was only shown in, like, the last 2 to 3 minutes of the documentary. Not to give it away, but I gave it away. And that's how quick it is for her energy its energy to take over and all of that. So that night, I had on and off sleep all night. I was getting really hot. Really strange dreams had occurred, but the one that was most vivid was of a little girl in what looked like kind of like a dirty school dress. She had long brown hair, and she had a ribbon in her hair that was like light blue to like put it back, kind of like what my hairstyle is now, which is creepy. And she grabbed me by the hand and was showing me different parts of this haunted location. So I was in this this haunted house, and in it she was showing certain people in my life that have difficulties going on, whether that be addictions or things like that. And she was pretty much telling me that that is why people are like possessed, I guess, was how it was portrayed to me in the dream. And that's why the shadow work aspect of our lives is really important, because if you don't get control of like that darker side of you, something else will. And it was really weird. That really freaked me out. And, so I kept trying to wake myself up out of it. I ended up waking myself up saying the St. Michael prayer, which was very new for me. I've never haven't had to wake myself up out of a dream saying the St. Michael prayer. But yeah, that's ended up what happened. And I had to smoke bomb the entire apartment out with sage, because her energy just lingered. It literally lingered all night. I got zero sleep into the next day. And it wasn't until after Krystal told me her dream that I was like, yeah, this thing needs to be saged out. She needs to go. Very trancy energy. She is very, very dark, very compelling, like draws you in, and very trancy, like puts you kind of in a trancy state. So That was my experience.
So this was the same night. We had the same, like, different dreams, the same girl. So I woke up the next morning, I called Kat, I said, but now at this point, I had no idea she'd had a nightmare about the same thing. So I said, I had this really weird dream. I had this dream. I've been searching for a house for a while. I've been talking about that on social media. I've been manifesting a move. I've been looking at homes for a long time. I'm not going to move until I'm sure I found the right one that comes up on the market. I wasn't sure if it was going to happen in 2020 or not. So I've been looking at a lot of houses and properties. And I had this nightmare where I was in a house with a realtor and my mother was there. And one of my dogs was there. And the realtor essentially like left the house and let my mom and I sort of start wandering through the property in this dream. And I went over to where the kitchen sort of was, and there was like a banister that went down into sort of like a basement or like a lower level area. And I saw this figure start to walk up the stairs. And in the dream, I remember thinking, I don't think anybody's down there. I don't think anyone's supposed to be down there. And this girl is walking up the stairs, and she's sort of like, Lottie, humming, sing. Well, a cat does that. Like, Kat and I like lived together on and off because when she comes to Vegas, she lives with me. You know what I mean? So she walks around humming Lottie. And so in the dream, I'm thinking, is it Kat? You know what I mean? Like, is that Kat? Like, and why the hell is she in the basement? Like, I didn't know you were here, girl. Like, why don't you say what's up? You just go downstairs, Yeah. So she walks up, and I realize she turns around, and it's not Kat. And it's this girl with sort of, I guess you could call it dirty brown, dirty blonde sort of hair. Like Kat said, half up, half down. A sort of 1800s raggedy white nightgown. And it's definitely like female energy of maybe late teens, early 20s. Is that what you got? I guess we didn't compare ages.
Yeah.
About the same.
Yeah.
And she's singing and she's like projecting. And I'm like looking at this girl like, she doesn't have Kat's exact voice, but like just the way she's presenting herself is like, it reminds me of Kat. And I'm like, this isn't Kat. And so the girl turns and she comes to us, this beautiful girl. And she's walking towards me and I get this feeling in the dream where I'm like, something's not right. Something's not right. And I literally start walking backwards away from this girl. And I turn to my mother, and she's getting close quickly, and that's when I know something, like, the energy was so, like, I want to say dank. I know, but it was so, like, it was almost like if you could smell something gnarly, that was how the energy felt. You know what I mean? And I just knew, like, she's portraying herself as this beautiful girl singing so that I trust her, and she's not to be trusted. And so I back up, I turn to my mom, and all I say is, Mom, I need you to start praying with me. And this is in the dream. And I literally sit up. Like, I thought I was still asleep. My spirit guides, like, pulled me out of that so fast. Like, I sat up and I told Kat, I was like, I didn't know, like, where I was. I was literally like, I've never just, like, sat up out of a dream like that. Normally, when you wake up out of a dream or, like, a nightmare, you're like, I'm so out. But I literally was, like, up. And I called Kat and I was like, dude, like, whatever that was bad. And Kat was like, you're gonna shit when I tell you. I just saw the same girl last night. And we both, now remember, Kat's East Coast, I'm in Vegas, which is Pacific Standard Time, LA time. And we both woke up at 6 a.m. So technically, Kat's 3 hours ahead of me. She woke up at 6 a.m. and then 3 hours later, I woke up at 6 a.m. Neither of us could go back to sleep. And then when we went back to sleep, we crashed for hours because we just couldn't, it was just draining. So anyway, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. So Kat bombed her apartment. I didn't feel the need to do so, personally. I didn't feel like it was really in my house, but I do think it was definitely mimicking Kat for sure, especially the like humming and the singing thing was really creepy.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think what creeped me out the most was when you told me it was singing almost what sounded like the national anthem.
It did. Well, yeah, no, God Bless America. Yeah.
God Bless America.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I sang that a lot, like, early on in you know, when I used to sing a ton, I had those gigs all the time.
Well, that's what I told Kat. I said for some reason, whatever this energy was, it was singing "God Bless America," like, and I was real dramatic, and I was like, yeah. Is it because it's the new year, girl? Like, are you excited for, like, 2021? And then I told Kat, and she was like, Krystal, I used to sing God Bless America, the national anthem, at hockey games, right?
Yep, for, like, 5 years in a row for this one specific hockey team. That was, like, one of my jobs, like, early on.
It's messed up. So so Annabelle is definitely attached to Kat, for sure, 100%. So, long story is we were digging around with this documentary, okay? I'm going to say a couple of things first as, like, my own disclaimer, because I like legal terms and it's fun, you know what I mean? This is just my opinion. There's my legal term. The other legal term I have to state is everything I have researched, you can also research online. The documents that I found, you can access them online as well. They are court documents. I have a feeling that if Tony Spera gets wind of this stream, he's going to be talking his little normal talk about people on social media. Here's the thing, like, you guys have known me for so many years. I've been doing this. I like to dig and find the truth. I like to dig and find... I like to play devil's advocate, you know? Like, people have portrayed the Warrens as these, like, pedestal gods, in a sense, like, on this pedestal, which is fine if that's the case. But I found some really nitty-gritty stuff out. In fact, Kat didn't even know what I found till this morning, and she was, like, speechless.
Yeah, I still am. It's gonna blow everyone's mind.
Yeah, I'm gonna upset some people who are, like, hardcore Warren fans. Believe it or not, I mean, go search the documents on the court documents yourself. It's obviously, if I was able to dig and find them, you're able to dig and find them. And it was so many documents, I couldn't even go through all of them, to be honest. So before we get into the dirt, which is, like, the good stuff, let's, I have notes here. I'm gonna pull them up really quickly. So we both took some separate notes on the actual documentary itself. If you haven't seen it, it is accessible on Amazon as well. I paid like $1.99 to buy the video or something. And it's The Devil's Road, The Warrens' Legacy. So let's just start off by talking about, from a filmmaker standpoint, the first thing they say is, like, really, like, legit stuff. Ed was a demonologist and Lorraine was a clairvoyant. Those were the first two sentences. And I'm like, wow, those are some, like, massive claims coming through, you know? Now, once again, I don't like the word demonologist because I think that anybody could technically be a demonologist if you want to study demonology. But to me, a true demonologist is, like, a very holy person. And if that person is a demonologist, I don't think they're going to call themselves a demonologist. They're going to probably call themselves a priest or what's the other terms for it? That's fathers, like Father Christian.
Fathers, bishops.
Bishops.
Yeah,
like we've
some deacons too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So those people to me are actual demonologists, in my opinion. I also think when people, like, pull out a book and say, oh, I'm going to study demonology, I think that they're going to start bringing that stuff towards them, and I think that's where it, like, gets really dangerous and you're kind of dabbling in the dark. So when you this is another quote that literally, like, the third sentence, when you challenge the demonic, it waits until you are most vulnerable. And then it starts opening to the case of the Conjuring house. So what was your intake, like, on the rhetoric of, like, the opening scene of these, like, dramatic claims of Ed and Lorraine?
I mean, it doesn't
Laura,
shock
for
me.
The bits. Woohoo, thank you.
Oh, hey! I just see it now. Yeah, I'm not shocked that they would put it in there. I mean, considering the franchise that they created, you know, through their investigations and things like that, obviously they're gonna started off with that,
right.
The money makers of everything in the movies and everything else. But yeah, they had, and one of the opening scenes too was about the Conjuring movie franchise.
Now,
literally,
the Conjuring house is in Rhode Island. Have you ever been there or over there?
I have been to that part of Rhode Island. Yes, that's in Harrisville, Rhode Island, and it was purchased by new owners 2019. We're not in 2020 anymore.
I have some tea on that too, girl. Okay.
Oh gosh, can't wait.
Oh yeah, that was an interesting read. So there's it's like this like gritty old like gray farmhouse that's like falling apart, and these two okay, when you first find it, these people that like bought the Conjuring house, it's like this younger couple, probably 36ish, 35ish. Thank you, Nikita. Appreciate you for the bits.
Yes.
So I'm laughing because they portray as like, oh, we accidentally bought the Conjuring house, didn't know what it was, and so we've decided to turn it into a bed and breakfast. Then you do more research on the guy, and he's been a ghost hunter for 10 years. He's well aware what he has just purchased. He's well aware that it's going to be a moneymaker. I mean, I'll stay there. You know what I mean? Not only to film, but if it's on Airbnb, hell yeah, call me. I'll be right there. I'll pay $400 a night. Like, yeah. But, yeah, so the tea on that is just like, they try to be like, oh, we didn't know. And we just decided like we should make this available for everybody. No, ho. You knew what you were buying. And you know it's going to be a moneymaker, which is fine. But just be honest about it. You know what I mean?
That's true.
But I didn't realize it's really like, it needs some Jesus. Like, that house needs, like, a lot of Jesus. Like, it's like, looks like it's about to fall over. Like, it looks like a house made out of Lincoln logs, doesn't it?
It's so funny because I was watching, like, looking at the photo of the new owners and things, because they did, like, a whole article about it.
I know. Oh, my God.
2019.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Well, I was laughing because I'm like, this house, first off, looks like it has, like, asbestos from hell, all right? Okay, and then like, these owners are sitting there and they're just like, I'm so happy I just bought the Conjuring house.
I know. Can you imagine how much it's going to cost to get that, like, renovations up and up to code? Like, it looks old.
Yeah, it needs some Jesus real bad.
Yeah.
Real bad.
Harrisville. Heinzen. Heinzen, if you're curious about it. So, yeah, June of 2019 is when they purchased it. I didn't really look into how much they purchased it for, but it does say like that they like bought the house and that you still hear a lot of like paranormal activity. Like they have doors open and close by themselves, footsteps and knocks. You'll go to the door, the handles jiggle, stuff like that. So it's still haunted. Which we'll get to the Conjuring case soon because I have Kat and I have some opinions on a lot of this. I have a lot of opinions, you know what I'm saying? Kat's gonna be the more like gentle one. I'm gonna be the one more like in your face because I like to be that.
It's like
person.
The good cop, bad cop.
I like
it's a nice
to
mixture.
Be that person though. You know what I mean? Like I like to shock people and they're like, "What?" It's like when they're like, "Oh, you're blonde and like girly," and you're like, "Yeah, I like dead people." Like, "What?" Like creep them out. Okay, so let's talk about. I'm going down. I'm reading this article. It's just ridiculous about. They tried to make it look like they were buying it to be nice or whatever, and like. Okay, so the main houses that they're known for, obviously, the Conjuring, the Bridgeport poltergeist. Which was haunting in Connecticut, essentially, right? It's a haunting in Connecticut, that one.
Pretty much. I think that was actually a separate one.
Well, it is, but, like, that was where the media was all over it, wasn't it? Like, the media was everywhere, and there were cars driving by.
Yeah, because that was in... It was 1970s?
Yeah,
like 1974?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. And it was around that time that The Exorcist had just been released.
Right.
In movie theaters, so people were like, "Oh my god!"
So in other words,
it's happening.
Divine timing.
Yeah,
right.
It's true. What better time to raise awareness?
Would the Warrens have been as successful if The Exorcist had not just dropped.
That's true. Yeah, that's very strange how that all kind of ended up working out in their favor.
Because there were literally, and I mean, who hasn't seen The Exorcist? We've all seen The Exorcist. Honestly, I'm not as repulsed by The Exorcist as I am the fact that they had, like, pea green soup, because I think pea soup is disgusting. Right. And the fact that, like, she said that Linda Blair had said she ate so much pea green soup because she had to, like, throw it up. Just the thought of eating pea soup, it just makes me nauseous. Not the fact that she was, like, gagging it up. Just I would be too, personally, you know what I mean? But, like...
Yeah, no.
But there were people running out of the theater when The Exorcist happened because it was so scary.
Yeah.
God, what's it like to be in a movie theater? I don't know. It's been so long.
It's kind of sad. It's kind of sad.
It's been almost a year. Like, literally sick. Anyway, sorry, I had a PTSD flashback from 2020. Okay, let's move forward to Amityville. They were known from the Lux family, which I'm going to talk about that because I'm lucky enough to know Chris Lutz, who is the youngest son. He's a beautiful human. I've talked about his story before. But it's interesting. So the very first interviewer or interviewee, whatever you want to title him, is Jason Hawes from Ghost Hunters. Did you see that?
What's that?
Jason Hawes from Ghost Hunters.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, Ed and Lorraine are groundbreaking.
I kind of thought it was random to have him in there.
I thought
I'm not going to lie. I was like, why is Jason here?
I was like,
literally.
But you're a skeptic, boo. Like, you think it's electrical issues. Like, you just...
It's true.
The fan made a fart noise. It wasn't the ghost. It was the fan.
It was a pipe.
It was a pipe. It was a squeaky pipe. Okay, so should I start dipping into my little... Are we ready for some tea? Why did I sit back? I'm sitting back. What? Go ahead.
We need to dip the toe in the tea. You know what I'm saying? We
I'm just gonna lightly dip the tea. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and then let's
just start little increments.
Oh, can I add something quickly before you jump in?
Please do.
I thought it was really interesting that Ed and Lorraine went to a house in Henniker, New Hampshire. Which is, like, not that far from where I live, and it was called the Ocean-Born Mary House.
Right. I wrote that down, because I was going to ask you, have you been by it or seen it?
No, but I'm gonna now. Like, I'm genuinely thinking about taking a drive next week and just driving by it to see, because the address is on there. Mm-hmm. But there was, like, some major activity in there.
Okay,
like,
with
poltergeist
that, I don't want to get ahead, but with that one, too... So that was, like, the first haunted house they'd been to, because they went on, like, a New England road trip, right, is basically what Ed said. They randomly found this, like, haunted, publicized house. They went to this haunted, publicized house, and the owner, like, let them in and, like, opened the door and, like, talked to him. And then they were sitting at, like, the kitchen table, and they said that Lorraine tranced out. And it was the first time she'd ever tranced out. Ed was, like, freaking out, saying, like, what's wrong with my wife? Something going on? And the guy was very knowledgeable in paranormal. And the guy said, oh, I've seen that happen with other people who have, like, psychic abilities. And Ed was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, people that are clairvoyant come in here, and they do that all the time. And here's... You know, the whole thing where I say Ed was an opportunist, I think he was a little bit of a con guy. With that being said, that was when Lorraine started using the term clairvoyant. So it was only after that guy at that location gave her the title. She was probably using the term like psychic, or I'm seeing colors and auras and blah, 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 which I'm not saying she wasn't gifted. I think she was gifted. But I just find it interesting that was how they started marketing themselves, was she's a clairvoyant. All because this guy was knowledgeable on it, that they went to one random haunted house.
I have some things to go off of that at some point. Okay. We won't do it now, but I wrote down a note to talk about that because I have something in regards to her being clairvoyant.
There's a lot of, like, little red flags we found in here is all I'm saying. Okay, so I want to start with saying I'm sitting here watching this, and they're talking about, like, the Conjuring movie and the Conjuring box office and, like, how wildly successful it was. And I'm in film. Right?
Yes. I'm laughing because I just know how Krystal works. You know what I'm saying? I just know.
Contracts, you know what I mean?
She's very thorough, guys. She's very thorough.
In a past life, I should have been a lawyer.
You probably were.
Probably was. Maybe there's still time. You know what I mean? Like, just go do it. Just go get it done.
Hey, it's true.
Okay. I have numbers. I'm about to drop some facts, so everybody pay attention.
Hold on tight.
Conjuring box office for one movie made $319.5 million for one movie. The entire series of The Conjuring, which is the multiple films, made close to $1 billion. Did you hear that correctly?
Wow.
That's a lot of effing money. Okay? Yeah. So all I'm saying is, why hasn't Ghost Girl Diaries gotten signed? No, I'm just kidding. What I'm trying to say is...
No, but really, though.
No, but
really.
If paranormal is that desired, okay... and that's successful, there is room, okay? Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's back up. The Conjuring, the first movie, made $319.5 million, okay? So then I said, okay, wait, you know, people see that money and they're like, oh my God, that's so much money. Okay, but how much did it cost to create the film? Because making a feature film is ridiculously expensive. Obviously, Warner Brothers was behind it. They have money. For the first film, one film only, it cost $161.7 million. So you do the math, and that's like half of what they made. So, like, they're just happy they got back what they put out, right? Because that's like what the actors cost and all, like how much it costs for the director. Obviously, usually the director will be the highest paid, and then the major actors will be underneath that. Then you have like camera techs and producers and all this stuff, okay? So then I was like, I'm going to look up the director. The director is James Wan. Okay, he obviously made some money off of this because his net worth is $70 million. And by the way, when you look up someone's net worth online, it's definitely lowballing. It's definitely lowballing because you don't know what their assets are. You don't know what properties they own. Usually millionaires or people that have a lot of money are investors. I'm an investor. If you're investing in the stock market, if you're investing in other businesses. So really saying he's worth, the director from The Conjuring is worth $70 million, that's lowballing it, okay? But he made a lot of money off this film. Then I was like, you know, screw the actors. We know the actors are going to get paid. They have to get paid because they're the ones that are the face of it. So we know they're going to get paid well. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to look up how much Lorraine Warren was worth when she was died. Do you know what I found? $1.7 million. The Conjuring series, $1 billion. And that poor little old lady was worth $1.7 million. That is pennies to what the series of The Conjuring made. So that tells me she didn't have a good lawyer. She didn't know what she was doing with filming contracts, and that's sad. But that was probably a lot of money for her, right?
Yeah.
She's been pretty much a housewife. They did, like, random stuff, like, you know, locally. They never really charged. But they had to eat somehow. And then Ed dies, and she gets this opportunity, and she's like, well, I'm going to do it, you know? So making $2 million off of $1 billion is ridiculous. Production companies screwed her, and that's just sad, period. Okay, anyway.
Poor Lorraine.
Do I start this? Do I start dipping the toe?
I think the ankle needs to go in now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's just time.
Okay, so we got the toe in, now we're going with the ankle.
Now the ankle needs to just, you know, go in the water. This is going to be
a dark hole, okay? Because this is not where this was meant to go.
Not in the slightest, but
the irony of the title of this is like the Warrens' legacy.
Yeah, right? Like the true story or something.
Again? What's the title now? I feel like
hang on, let me pull it up.
Devil's Road: The True Story of Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Yeah, the true story.
Is it the true story though? But
that's the T. That's the ankle.
I found the true story.
Okay, we're going in with the ankle now,
okay,
folks.
Kat's like, just put the ankle in. Okay.
I'm ready!
God, this is so crazy. Okay, so I was literally just researching the cost of the film, what everybody's making, net worth. Like, in my opinion, Lorraine should have been worth at least $100 million, in my opinion.
Way more.
Minimally.
Way more.
Like, that's minimally. You're made $1 billion off of this woman and what she did, and you paid her pennies.
I have a question. Did we check at Ed's net worth?
I think it's combined.
Is it combined?
Well, because her net worth, he's already dead. You know what I mean?
That's true.
He's already dead. So, I mean, unless he's got something stashed somewhere that nobody knew about, like waiting, hanging out. And remember, the films weren't done after he died, so I doubt he was worth more than that, for sure.
That's true.
Okay, so as I'm researching, okay, oh my God, I don't even know how this happened. So I'm researching it. So I find out that there is, I want to give you the receipts. Okay, his name is Gerald Brittle, Brittle. Okay. In 2016, Mr. Gerald sued Warner Brothers for $999 million because he was the co-writer of several books with the Warrens in the 70s and 80s. He was the ghost writer, basically, of the books that the Warrens put out, such as, like, there was one called Demonology. There's a few of them. Basically, Gerald said, I am the author of these books that were like The Conjuring and all this stuff. And we had a specific NDA. Nobody came to me before the negotiation started for the movies. In the contract and NDA, I said you could not do any other like further publishing without my permission because I was the writer of these books and he had a specific contract with the Warrens. Well, I don't know if it's because Lorraine is older. Did she forget about the contracts? Who knows what happened? Maybe Ed did it behind her back and she didn't know about the contracts. We don't know. So essentially, this author, Gerald, takes Warner Brothers to court. He says, I want $999 million in reimbursement because essentially you copyrighted my content out of my books without my permission. He was really wanting, let's just say he wanted a piece of the pie. Of course he did. $1 billion? Of course he wanted a piece of the pie. Everybody's greedy.
Right.
Everybody's got to eat when you're on this planet. You got to have shelter. So he wanted a piece of the pie. He sues Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers says, okay, we're not going to worry too much about it unless the judge takes it serious. So when you're talking about a copyright infringement in Hollywood, how it works is you take the stuff to court, then it goes to the judge, and the judge determines if it should go through court proceedings or if it should be thrown out. It just depends on how much evidentiary support there is. It depends on a lot of things, right? So this guy told the judge, if Warner Brothers can determine that ghosts are real, I will drop my case. Otherwise, in the court of law, ghosts are not real and they do not exist. Therefore, I wrote fictional books with the Warrens, and they took my fictional stories and reportrayed them in movies, and now they owe me money. Did your head just explode?
Yeah. Everywhere.
He won. Warner Brothers settled with him out of court for an undisclosed amount of money. I can tell you it was a lot of effing money. In fact, that author is richer now than Lorraine herself, which also makes me effing sick, considering she was at the core of this whole thing. But anyway, he knew how to screw the system. It gets deeper than that. I think we should come back to that, though. I think we should just...
You think?
Yeah, I think we should come back to that. Because the next part that I tell you guys is going to be... That's going to be when we jump in the shit pool. You know what I mean? Like, we're about wasting right now. So let's just get
waiting it out.
Let's get comfortable first.
Waiting it out.
Then we'll go ahead and dive. You know what I'm saying? Okay, Kat, do you want to take over from there?
Okay. Going back to the documentary, right?
Yes, sorry.
Which part you want to go back to? Okay. Yeah, so the opening scene we talked about earlier was talking about like the Conjuring movie franchise and all of that. So it kind of opened up to 966 Lindley Street, Bridgeport, Connecticut, where there was like poltergeist activity happening there, yada, yada, yada. Essentially, chairs were moving, refrigerators were being thrown, icebox were being thrown, knives were being thrown.
And they interviewed the police. What? Would that happen today in 2021?
No.
No.
No. No, not at all. And there was a crucifix that was on the wall that literally just like shattered. Like nothing was there and it just shattered. So at that point, a house blessing was asked for, and everything went fine during this house blessing by a father, priest, until they reached the basement. The father had stated in his interview, which was all on tapes, so they had like some unreleased footage and like unreleased tapes and things like that of some of these interviews, you know, with Ed and Lorraine and the folks that they were with. And he said that as he was blessing the basement, he kept seeing this shadow, this black shadow, and he said that the shadow looked solid and very well defined. So I thought that that was really interesting to hear, that it just literally looked like a being, but it was just like solid black, like you couldn't even look through it at all. Father's seminary, so that's like the father's trainee, so that would be like kind of like a deacon, someone that was training with the father to become an exorcist or things like that, was 21 years old. He was an assistant. He was upstairs, and that's when he started to witness that Lorraine was under attack from this shadow. This was kind of like one of her first attacks in a documented paranormal investigation with Ed and Lorraine. She said on the unreleased tapes that it felt like she was being burned, like on the inside. So that was like very, very eerie. That was a very, very eerie
Burned
thing
on
to
the
say.
inside. Yeah.
Yeah. The child was the one that was mainly the affected one in the home.
Wasn't this the adopted kid? He was adopted.
Yeah, really sad. Really, really sad. So there was this man named Paul Eno, was his name. I can't remember the direct relation with Ed and Lorraine, but I think he was someone that worked with Ed and Lorraine. And he was watching the child because there was suspicions that the entity was affecting the child. So while Ed and Lorraine were walking through the home with the priest, Paul was sitting with the child at a table, and the child was playing a board game. He said that he looked over at the child and he started to smell something kind of like sulfur smelling. He mentioned in it that it smelled kind of like an ozone layer, so I would assume maybe something like smoky and like not smelling good, and that this entity was showing itself as this white mist. But what was strange about it was when Paul went to go and touch it, he said that it pushed him back. Like it literally felt like there was somebody there like pushing his hand back, and he said he felt that the mist had a bone structure. So, like, he could touch this mist and it felt like it actually had bones. And that was weird to me. Like, that could give me goosebumps a little bit, because, you know, you think about, you know, entities and spirits and things like that, you wouldn't necessarily think of something that has some form of, like, a bone structure. But then again, we can't see it, right. You know? Joseph Walsh, at that point, was shown. He's a police chief, and he said, you know, he had a really big issue with the things and the way that the media was broadcasting this town. Bridgeport, Connecticut is a relatively small town, and, you know, with small towns, they have to hold a certain type of, like, what's that word, like view, like vantage point about, you know, their good town and nothing bad can happen here and things like that. And some time had passed and the investigation never really like fully came to a close. And he came forward on the media and said that the girl admitted that she was the one hitting the walls and creating this paranormal activity, right. Which at that point really made no sense, because how could, like, a 95-pound girl soaking wet, 10 years old, move a 450-pound icebox? Mm-hmm. Like, that literally makes no sense to me whatsoever, or to anybody.
Essentially, they had to cover it up.
Of course, like, they were just sick of the media, because at that point, The Exorcist had just been released, so everybody was there, everyone was taking photos, media was constantly
in timing, man, I'm telling you, divine timing.
Yeah. Really weird. It was then, after Joseph Walsh came on, that Tony Spera was, aired, and was talking about Lorraine and her being able to see auras and lights and things like that, and how she grew up in a very Catholic religion, and she was in Catholic school when she was younger, and she would talk about these things with the nuns there, and the nuns would tell her all the time, we don't talk about that here.
I know.
And they pretty much just swept it under the rug, and that made me really sad.
Seeing orbs and auras, don't you?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And she would be able to see entities and see, like, the color, like what it looked like, like what they look like as a spirit. And it was just, it's made me really sad. That made me really sad. And I think that they showed Tony in the interview. That was the first time we saw Tony Spera in the interview. And of course they would show him after talking about the police chief, because Tony himself was a police officer back in the day. And then he went on talking about Ed and about how he fought in the Navy during World War II. And he had a near-death experience, which is what kind of got him in the paranormal. Oh, yeah. Okay, go. Go.
Okay. One thing that really stood out to me was the daughter, Judy, said, quote, their true mission was to prove the devil existed and that he was real.
Yes.
Then I was like, what's my mission with Ghost Girl Diaries? I like to talk to dead people.
Right.
I know. Shoot, that's mine doesn't sound as good. I like to talk to the devil. Should I reword it? But I don't like to talk to the devil. You know what I mean? Annabelle visits me in my dreams. That's my mission. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, you get insight from it at some point, feelings. It's an experience. That's the whole point of being a paranormal investigator, is to push those boundaries, But, that we had talked about that too, about what she had said. And they had talked about it a few times throughout the whole documentary. The documentary runs like about an hour and a half. It's like an hour 20, hour and a half or something. And the main thing that they kept saying and repeating was that the whole point why Ed and Lorraine were doing this was to show people that there was a God and there is evil and the devil exists, and to not use Ouija boards and to not do like seances and yada yada. But then that kind of went down like a little bit of a rabbit hole where I was talking to Krystal, and I'm like, but isn't that like the point of being a paranormal investigator? Like, we can't stop anybody from doing that,
Well, essentially, what Kat's saying is like, Ed and Lorraine were trying to show people, like, this is dangerous. It's the devil. The devil exists. Don't mess with this stuff. But my response was, of course, everyone that's in the public eye is going to have admirers. You can't tell people or stop them from following in your footsteps. And like Kat said, they can't be the only paranormal investigators that ever existed, period. And honestly, I'm going to be honest, Tony Spera has that arrogant-ass attitude, too. I have Annabelle, she's dangerous, you don't know how dangerous she is, you're not going to get around her, and you don't know what you're messing with. Well, you don't have the liberty to tell me how far I can push my boundaries with interacting on the other side. You don't rule all paranormal investigators, Tony, and Ed, for that matter, right?
Right.
We all, as paranormal investigators, have I'm not saying it's safe to mess around with demons and demonology either. But I'm not telling you not to do. You gotta do you, boo.
Free will.
You're gonna be the one that finds out the consequences. It's not gonna be anybody else.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's nice to warn them, but why was Ed so obsessed with like demons and like proving the devil was real?
Yeah.
I might have that answer.
She might. Yeah, Tony's an interesting guy too, because I had some conversations with him.
That was so polite, Kat. Tony is such an interesting guy.
He's an interesting, and I say character because his facade that he puts on in front of people is not how he talks to people like behind the scenes, if that makes sense. Like I call him an interesting character because he's very his energy right when you see him is very kind of like angry, I guess, in a sense. Like if you're an empath and you read energy off of people, he seems very cut and dry and very just like an angry dude. He's a very, very powerful, like, angry dude. And he knows that his words with people that aren't informed of this stuff or maybe aren't as involved in the paranormal will believe him and everything that he says.
Nikita's asking, do you think if you see Annabelle in person that her energy will follow you home?
Ooh, you cut out. What did you say, Krystal?
Great.
What did you say? If I see Annabelle what?
I hate her.
Oh, wait, I just saw her question. Her energy will follow you home. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
It's kind of weird. I talked about my experiences with Annabelle, with Krystal, and I've talked about it on my YouTube channel too. But her energy, I feel like she wants to get out so badly out of the encasing that she's in that she will attach herself or her energy onto as many people as possible to like make that happen. If that makes sense.
Well, it causes an energetic highway, you know? Like, that's the exit out is, like, going to you or projecting. I mean, I'm going to be honest and say I don't think that case does a whole lot. Blessed or not. I think that she enjoys the vessel she's chosen to be in permanently.
Yeah.
Because where else is she going to go? You know what I mean? And I also think that she likes the facade now. You know, the law of attraction works both ways, guys. You can bring in the energy of like, oh, I want to be positive, I want money. Like the law of attraction works. There was CIA documents just released recently that the government talks about the law of attraction, and sometimes that's how they use media agendas to push out onto us. If they get enough people, I mean, even like the Rona issue, if you get enough people believing in it, it's going to make the fear grow, and it's going to make the actual infection grow. And Annabelle's the same way. If there's enough people believing in her and you have $1 billion created at the box office surrounding the creation of Annabelle, everyone that's put money into it by going to the theater or believing it, or even Kat and I talking about Tony Spera and her, that's giving her more power and more energy and making her bigger and more powerful. She's not going to leave that vessel now because she knows she's important.
Yeah, I like, the best way I can describe it too is kind of like what Krystal has talked about in the past about Saks Museum and how those entities really feel like comfortable in those rooms.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they love that room, and I think that Annabelle loves the vessel that she's chosen. I do believe that, but I don't doubt for a second that you shouldn't, you know, she's very dark. She's very, very dark, and you know, in the event, just to quickly, I won't go crazy long talking about it, but they had her in the room the whole time, along with the Conjuring mirror as well, from the Conjuring case. So they had the Conjuring mirror in the same room as well. And I think that's just kind of like what amped it up, you know, two very dark energies. But don't you think
that once again, now that it's been believed in by all these people and everybody's bought into it, that it's made it even more powerful than it was before?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't doubt that for 1 second. I don't doubt that for 1 second. Yeah, it's...
Here's my opinion on Ed Gein. I'm going to use my example with Ed Gein. Every time I go to the museum, I get followed home by Ed Gein. Now, remember, he's just as famous in a way. They made the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Psycho. I mean, like, he's famous. Like, he's proud of himself. Like, what he's created, he's made. But he follows me home. Like, Kat's had nightmares of him after she went to the museum. She had an experience. I'm not afraid of him, though, because I just think he was a really misunderstood, lost soul. I really don't think he was, quote, as dark as he was. I think maybe he suffered from mental illness. I'm not giving him an excuse for the murders and the things that he did. But, like, he was building a suit to recreate his mother. I think he was afraid to be alone. So he was, like, creating, like, an alternate personality by building a human suit. And I look at things on a psychological perspective, and I think that's where I interact with them differently. I don't see him as Ed Gein, the, like, serial killer. I'm like, dude, you were messed up. You needed some therapy. You needed some holy water, a little bit of Jesus, and we would have had you on the right track instead of grave robbing, brother. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just look at things differently. So when he follows me home, I know it sounds bad, but I'm not really scared. He can't stay here. You can't stay here, Mr. Gein. But, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not afraid of that energy. And the same thing sort of went with I had that dream about Annabelle. All I knew was I wasn't going to be around it. And I literally backed up and my guides got me out of the dream immediately. So I have like a new group for Ghost Girl Diaries on Facebook, and people talk about like getting followed home, and people are like, oh, I'd love to like investigate, but I'm too scared to get followed home. In but I've also been doing it for freaking how long? Half my life. I get followed home 99.99% of the time. So now not everyone does. Cat hasn't always gotten followed home. She also has a definitely a whiter light to her, if you will, where I'm kind of neutral. I like a little bit of, I like the dark. I'm not going to lie. I'm interested on the dark side, okay? I can't lie about it. That doesn't mean I'm a devil worshiper. I'm not into Satanism. It just means I'm interested in understanding both sides of it. I do. And if these people are so afraid, like you go in the Conjuring house like they're talking about and there's still activity going on, I want to experience it. I want to know, why is it so scary? Why is it so scary? Is it really that scary, or are people just making it out to be bigger than it actually is? Now, definitely with energies, I think good versus bad, there's quite a difference. There's quite a difference between hanging out with a demon and hanging out with just a dead person that doesn't want to cross over, right, Kat? Like,
yeah, it's true. Very true.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to go on to the next part, which is probably going to be dropping the mic on Ed Warren.
Conjuring?
With what? Yeah.
With the Conjuring? Yep. Okay.
Devil's Road, the true story of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Now remember this title, The True Story of Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm researching ready to jump in the shit pool with me? Is everybody ready?
So now we're jumping in.
We're all comfortable, right? We're ready to go?
We're waiting.
Okay. Because This is definitely a shit pool, so I'm just letting everybody know ahead of time. As I'm researching, like, how much The Conjuring made and all that stuff, I'm like, okay, cool. I wanna find out more information. I find out that the author, which is this Gerald guy, he is suing Warner Brothers, trying to get more money out of Warner Brothers because he's saying, like, I created, the story of The Conjuring and the Demonologist, right? And I'm going to get compensated for it. And at the time, they're kind of, this court case went on for a few years, like 2016, 17, 18-ish, okay? So they're going back and forth fighting, and Gerald gets dirty, okay? First of all, he brings out a producer that was from the Conjuring movies. Now, this is that guy. What was his name? He's the guy that Zach had a problem with the Demon House. You remember that whole saga that happened, like, in the Demon House?
Was it Jay?
I have his name.
Jason? It began with a J, didn't it? Am I losing it?
Hang on a second.
We were literally just talking about him.
Yep. I want to give his name because I want it to be correct. I took snapshots of stuff, and I will post this for you guys. Tony DeRosa. Remember Tony DeRosa?
Yeah.
He is a producer from the original Conjuring. So, Tony and Gerald, who's the author. Tony's a producer, and Gerald's the author. They get together, and they decide they're going to team tag Warner Brothers and get money out of them. And how they're going to do it is they're going to play dirty. And what they do, and once again, find these documents online. Find the court case online. Do your work, boo. It's going to take you a long time. What?
What? Uh-oh.
There's scratching in here.
I can hear it in the
when
back.
I said, do your work, boo, I heard a female go, mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh!
Which, before I started this stream, guys, Kat and I were sitting here prepping, like, audio and, like, lighting, and all of a sudden the door to my studio opened, and it shut by itself. And I was like, who the hell just walked in my studio? I went over there, nobody's there. So Kat was like, oh, good, Annabelle's right on time. Now I'm gonna have.
And then I heard footsteps.
And Kat was hearing footsteps on hardwood floors, which I have carpet. Anyway, Annabelle must agree with this. Just kidding. Okay,
oh
so
gosh.
so Tony, the producer, they're gonna tag team Warner Brothers, okay, and they're gonna sue Warner Brothers. And how they're gonna do it is, the author Gerald pulls out his original old contracts from the Warrens in like the 70s and 80s when they made these books. And in the contracts, it talks about a woman named Judith Penny. And the woman in these old, and they're all submitted to the courts. And they're saying that if Warner Brothers does not give them money and close the case, they're basically going to expose the Warrens to the world. And they're going to like shut everything down that they've created, this like billion-dollar empire. So that is when Warner Brothers stepped in and was like, we're going to pay you off and shut you up so that you don't screw up anything else that we're going to try to build again.
Oof, this is where it gets not good.
What the hell? There is a little girl, it sounds like, in here. Like,
really?
Like it sounds like maybe 12 or something.
Oh, great.
Like, it sounds like she's, like, giggling and playing in here. Like, behind, like, my backdrop. Just give me 1 second. I just want to...
I'm just saying, I smoke by my house, you can't come back. Got to say about that.
I don't hear
Nikita's talking about the, Lizzie Borden house. They're selling it again.
Got issues.
Nikita.
Okay.
Moon.
So, they find this girl named Judith Penny, and they have documents on her. Judith Penny was a 15-year-old girl when she met Ed Warren at the age of, he was 37. He started having an affair with Judith Penny. He was a bus driver, and Judith Penny took the bus to school. She obviously had a troubled home life, and at some point, Ed Warren invited Judith Penny to live with them. There were a lot of people that were questioning this in the neighborhood, and a few days after Judith moved in, she was actually arrested at the age of 15, being accused of adultery, of basically sleeping with Ed. They couldn't figure out why she was there. The police ended up letting her go. There were a few stories going on. The Warrens lied and said she was a niece. There was another story that they lied and said that she was a Catholic kid that they were bringing in that was like a homeless child they were helping. And then there was another story that she was basically the babysitter and the house sitter for when they were out of town working on paranormal cases. What happened, what this author had was documents that Ed was a pedophile and he was sleeping with Judith Penny, and she actually lived with the Warrens for 40 years. She lived with them from 1963 when she met him at 15, and she moved out in 2003, okay? She also accused Ed of being a pedophile. So eventually what ends up happening is Judith gets pulled into this court case. Not the daughter Judith. The girl that was 15 that moved in with them. Okay? So
Penny.
She has to hire a lawyer. And once again, find the documents if you want to. She hires a lawyer to represent her with this Warner Brothers case, saying, I don't want to be pulled in this. But they still needed a statement from her for the court system. And essentially, Judith Penny stated that, yes, at 15 in 1963, I moved in with Ed and Lorraine Warren. I was Ed's girlfriend. He is a pedophile. I lived with him for 40 years. Lorraine Warren was essentially a really good Catholic woman who didn't like sex, and Ed didn't like that. So essentially they moved this 15-year-old girl in not only to, quote, help her, but also she was helping raise their child and also watching the house while they were gone. Now, take a step back for a minute and remember, I think it was the second Annabelle movie. Do you remember there being a babysitter in the movie, but she wasn't related and it was an underage kid? Is everybody shitting themselves right now?
Yeah, it only keeps going.
Oh, it's not. We're not done yet. We're not done yet.
All of this is on documents.
This is all documented. It's all
documented.
So then, what ends up happening is this whole court case starts to unfold, and Lorraine gets her lawyer involved and says, we need to get an affidavit to Warner Brothers immediately because, like, the truth is coming out, okay? So her lawyers draw up an affidavit for the production company to sign. What's an affidavit? It's like a legal document that they're going to be in agreement upon something. It could be considered an addendum to a contract, which is like an extension to the contract. Inside of the addendum, it says, I'm going to read it verbatim.
Receipts.
I'm going to read it verbatim because I took screenshots. So just hang on. Give me a second to find which one it is. Oh, by the way, here's the girl at 15 with Ed. So there were actually receipts that they had. And he's like holding her waist all creepily. So Ed was an actual pedophile. Ugh.
That's not good.
Okay, I'm reading this. Hang on, let me find it. There's a lot going on here, guys, so hang on. Okay, here's the addendum. You ready for this? Everyone's like, weird. Like, literally. It is weird.
It's weird.
Did it mess up your perspective on the Warrens? It messed me up. It's like
I
really
was
messed
shocked.
me up. Because, like, I love the Warren, or I did love the Warrens. And now I read all this and like, what's going on? Like, everything I knew isn't now. Like, literally.
Oh my god! 2021, entering that 5D with the truth. You know what I'm saying?
This is the addendum. This is the addendum that Lorraine and her lawyer drew up for Warner Brothers. Okay? It says this. Hang on.
Was that you singing?
Okay. Yes, it was. Okay, this is called a Warren's consulting deal, verbatim. It is prohibited to have a depiction of Ed Warren or her husband engaging in any of the following crimes, including sex with minors, child pornography, prostitution, sexual assault, or pornography addiction. Neither the husband nor the wife will be depicted participating in any extramarital sexual relationships. They will only be depicted as a proper Catholic couple.
Wow.
Lorraine is admitting all of... What did I just read? She's admitting Ed Gein. Jesus, sounds like
Whoa.
Ed Gein.
That was weird.
Lorraine is admitting her own husband is engaging in sex crimes. He's having sex with minors. She's admitting he's into child pornography. She's admitting that he's sleeping with prostitutes. She's admitting that he was involved with sexual assault cases. And neither of the wife or husband will be depicted having an extramarital sexual relationship.
That's the tea.
Oh, no, it's not. We're not done.
We're not done with the tea, though. The tea continues.
What do you guys think? Is that crazy? Is that crazy?
Literally, like, when Krystal and I were chatting about this earlier, I feel like I'm still in a state of processing. So if I look at like I have resting bitch face right now, it's just because I'm processing.
So let me just repeat that. Lorraine made Warner Brothers sign that addendum to protect the identity of her husband because the truth was coming out. Is that crazy? So you have Mr. Ed Warren as this like proper, perfect paranormal investigator who's like of the light and I'm holy and I use the name of God to defeat evil. Why was he so into the devil? Was it because the devil was inside him?
Yeah.
Was it?
Or it was attracted to him.
Or it was attracted to him. Or were the cases and the locations that they were going, they got such good evidence because his energy was so dark?
Ooh, Krystal?
What?
Ooh, you're breaking up.
Could you hear what I just said?
No, what did you say?
I said, was the locations and the energy and the evidence he was getting so good because he was so dark?
Oh gosh, yeah. And in almost every investigation, too,
Nikita said my whole Catholic house is shooketh right now.
He always got really affected, too, in these locations, like, from an angry standpoint.
Yep.
You know?
I'm not done yet. We're not done yet. We're still not... Mm-hmm. Are we okay? Is everybody okay right now?
Can we need a drink break? Are we good?
Do we just need a meditation break? Is everything all right?
It's fine. We're going to breathe, and we're going to go through this. And this is why, Krystal wanted to also make the mention in case Tony does see this, because this is all documented.
And I don't,
it's all done.
All he does is threaten and, blast people on social media. He's a bully. Yeah. He's just a bully. He doesn't want anyone or anything to disrupt the empire that he's swooped in on. His money empire. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm looking through my papers because I don't want to forget anything here. Okay, so here's the more tea. So this girl, Judith, was living with the Warrens for 40 years. Okay, so she met Ed at the age of 15. And a lot of people accused her of... she said... No, that's all right. A lot of people accused her of, she was going to sue Warner Brothers as well and, try to get money off of them because of, all of the damages that she'd gone through since she'd been living with them for so many years. And she walked away. She said, my life was already messed up because I was a 15-year-old kid and I was being abused and groomed by Ed for so many years. She got that one syndrome where you, you feel bad for your captor type of thing, whatever. That's why she stayed so long. They gave her so much money. They gave her a free house to live. They gave her food in exchange for basically being Ed's sex slave in a way. She walked away and she didn't sue Warner Brothers for a penny, not for 1 penny, because she said, I knew what happened to me and that was all that mattered. He had messed up enough of my life, 40 years of my life, and I don't need anything else from them. She's still alive to this day. She has a lawyer, but apparently she's had no comment for years, and she wants nothing. Yes, Stockholm. Thank you, Monica. She wants nothing to do with the Warrens or their legacy or any of their money. But it's interesting. You hear of Ed and Lorraine being these, beautiful, wonderful Catholic people that did all this stuff. Judith Penny, the girl, also, she's in her 70s now, by the way. She also said that Ed was extremely abusive to Lorraine. And she would witness Ed slapping her constantly. And Ed looked at Lorraine as a business partner, and Ed looked at Judith as his girlfriend. And so he had... Let me give you a timeline. Really quickly, because I actually did the math on the timeline. Okay. May 22nd, 1945 is when they got married. She was 18, he was 19. He went into active duty at 17. And at 21, he came home, and this was 1948, and that is when their daughter, Judy, was born. And remember, they were both born in the 20s. 15 years later, after the daughter was born, so 1948 is when the daughter's born. 15 years later, that's when he meets Judith in 1963, and she's 15 years old, okay? He was 37, and she was 15. He knew what he was doing.
Yep.
He knew what he was doing. She was a minor. She probably had a dysfunctional family. Obviously, who's going to let their 15-year-old just move out? He knew to find somebody who was, beat down and didn't have anybody. And he put her in a position that she was locked. Then she gets a free house, free food. All I have to do is sleep with the guy. I might as well do it.
So bad. So bad.
So then she lived with them until 2003, which is interesting. So in 2003, Judith ends up getting pregnant by Ed. And Lorraine, now at this point, they'd still had a lot of fame. Not the Conjuring and stuff, but they'd still had a lot of fame. Lorraine begged Judith to have an abortion because she said it would make the family look bad. And it would cause, like, hysteria in the media. So Lorraine took Judith to get an abortion. And she was so distraught because she said, I'd lived with him for 40 years. He was like my husband, you know, my boyfriend husband. I wanted a child. Why was I not entitled to a child? By the way, at this point, so Ed was like 77 when she got pregnant. So then she was like, I'm done, I'm moving out. She moved out after that. And then 3 years later, Ed died. She was still in contact with Ed and Lorraine until he passed away. She was still a part of their life. She just wasn't living with them.
Wow.
Did your brain just explode, like, everywhere? And I'm sorry, but how can they pretend to be this, like, perfect Catholic family when they have, like, some major skeletons in the closet?
There's always two sides to every story, and then there's the truth, you know?
Oh, my God.
Someone said, oh, my God, I need a shower on my brain.
I know.
My gosh, for real, though.
So
it's shocking.
It is shocking. It is shocking. So then you kind of keep watching this documentary, right? And then it goes to a point where Ed's talking about, like, oh, you know, when I figured out my wife was, you know, clairvoyant, the way they would find houses, like locations, is they'd be driving and Lorraine would have visions of these houses. They'd pull over. Ed would, like, he was an artist. He would draw or do a sketch. And then he would he's like, oh, you know, Lorraine was this, like, pretty Irish girl and just everybody loved her. He made her go to the front door, knock on their house, say, oh, we drove by this house, my husband drew this picture for you. They would start talking about paranormal, and that was their Weasley way they got into paranormal locations. Ed was a con man. He was an opportunist. I'm not saying he wasn't a paranormal investigator. He got some damn good evidence. Okay, I'm not disputing that at all. But I'm saying he saw opportunities and he was an opportunist and he took them. And at the expense of using his wife for everything, he made Lorraine do all the work. She's the clairvoyant. She's finding the location. She's the one walking up to the front door. And then when they get in media, Ed's the one doing 90% of the talking.
Yeah.
And he's at home. Nobody knows during this whole frenzy he's got a 15-year-old girlfriend at home that's been living with them for 40 years. Mind blowing.
Now, can I touch on something quickly on the clairvoyance thing?
Yep.
So this is going to kind of jump in the documentary, but I just wanted to make a note of it, that there was at some point in the documentary where Lorraine did get some testing done to see if she actually had clairvoyance, you know, and was a psychic. And there was a mention in there that Lorraine said that she felt less bad about her abilities knowing that there was actual evidence of it. And it makes sense that she would say that, not only having grown up in, like, the Catholic school and them kind of telling her, like, don't give in to that type of thing, but also because it makes sense now that Ed was using her as a means of getting to these locations, that she would question in her head, is he just using me, or do I actually have this ability?
Right.
Like, how would that not make someone question themselves if they're being used for financial gain?
Well,
you know what I mean?
Here's the damn truth. They were both born in the 20s. Okay? And that was the era of the 50s, 60s housewife.
Yep.
And Ed, if he was controlling and if he wanted to have sex and she went to an all-girls school, she's trying to follow her path of the light and God. She doesn't want to sleep with her husband too much because she doesn't want to disappoint God. Whatever, like, you know, that's the scarce of religion scaring people. And she was just trying to do the best she could and be the best person that she could be.
Yeah.
So if Ed's being abusive or whatever, she's still sticking by her man because that's the ideology of the 50s, 60s housewife. Even if he was abusive, that was her man. She stuck by her man. You mind your man. You walk behind your man in his shadow, whatever he wants to do. And I'm sorry, but, like, he was really good with words and rhetoric. And I wouldn't doubt that he, like, talked her into allowing this child to live with them in the name of God. God sent her to me. You can't provide sexual gratification for me, so God sent her to me. Like, that's a cult shit. That is cult shit. And Lorraine was very innocent and still trying to obey her husband. And remember, in the eyes of Catholic and Catholicism, you can't get divorced. And if you do get divorced, you can't get remarried in the Catholic Church. Why do I know that? Because I'm obsessed with Gwen Stefani, and she cannot remarry in the Catholic Church with Blake Shelton. She's broken about it because her and Gavin got a divorce. She's very religious, her family's religious, and she cannot remarry in the Catholic Church because they won't allow it. Because divorce is frowned upon. You don't do it, period. Mm-hmm. So, honestly, if Lorraine is old school, she's born in... Just feels like I was getting a shoulder rub for a second.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You also, like, cut out again.
I thought I had a hoodie on my, like, you know, the back of my chair. And you know how, like, it feels like when a hoodie falls on you, like, heavy? Yeah. And I turned around and there's nothing there. That's how it felt. It felt like a hoodie, like a blanket floated on me.
Someone wearing a hoodie. Oh.
What? What?
Isn't the hoodie...
What?
Didn't you see someone wearing a hoodie recently?
Who's wearing a hoodie?
No, remember like a few days ago?
I was wearing a hoodie?
No, you saw something that was wearing one.
Oh, yeah, but that was something else.
Something else?
Yeah. I get a lot of energies in here, guys. Sorry, you know. That was Ghost with the Most from last week. So another thing that I was interested in was Ed had said in the documentary he was 8 years old when he learned about possession and exorcism. Okay? This is weird. I'm sorry, but, like, he said that his neighbor, he was 8 years old, and his neighbor was possessed by a demonic pig, and he would lash out and act like a demonic pig. And that his dad or his, like, family got involved, and the neighbors got involved, and they were trying to get somebody to go do, like, a rite of exorcism on him, and they couldn't do it. And so I, you know, being, like, my little dark side, I got on the internet, and I researched, like, demon names that are pigs. I don't know. I want to know. Know. And you know what comes up?
Oh my gosh, Krystal, what?
I'm not releasing a demonic name, so everybody calm down, okay? You're not supposed to say demonic. I'm not going to do that. But what came up was something called the exorcism of Gerasene Demonia, which was something in the Bible. And it's like there's actually mosaics that were painted like in AD. And it says it's the swine and the exorcism of Legion, and it was miracles that were performed by Jesus in the New Testament. Did Ed make that up from reading the Bible?
Oh my gosh. What? That's weird.
Did I just, like, totally call out Ed Warren on all his shit and he's, like, a total fraud?
Wow.
I mean, saying a pig, that's very specific.
Yeah.
And let's be real, like, back then, they didn't, like, the internet wasn't as prominent. So, and he is religious, clearly. So he probably read the New Testament and was like, you know, it would scare the shit out of people more than anything, telling them about the exorcism Jesus performed on the demonic pig. But let's say it was my neighbor.
That's messed up.
What do you think?
That's messed up. Yeah, I agree with that. Anything to kind of zhuzh up, you know, something that he's trying to get notoriety for. That's crazy. I also found it interesting, too, that Ed was always the first one into locations.
Something came at my door again.
Oh, that was weird.
Can I just finish the stream, please? Just, like, let me finish the stream.
Wow.
I swear, I feel like my studio is just a portal. And, like, anytime can I one thing off subject really quickly?
Yeah.
I posted the TikTok of when I was on Instagram and I was, like, doing the Instagram story and then, like, the mirror fell and I had all that paranormal activity.
Uh-huh.
It has, like, 12,000 views or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
On TikTok. Let me see. Let me look. I'm going to look really quick. Hang on. What are we at now? It's at 10,000 views. People are accusing me of it being fake evidence. I am so proud. Do you know what it takes to get to a point where... No, I'm serious. I'm flattered. I am so happy. Like, my evidence was so good, they think it was fake. I'm, like, so privileged. Like, some people were, like, commenting, they're like, this is fake. I was like... I am so flattered. Thank you so much. Like,
while there are like 80 other comments on there that are like, "Did you see the woman with the black hair?"
Yeah, that was.
I'm just like,
fucking Pocahontas. She's just chilling in here.
My gosh.
I'm gonna keep going here. So anyway, I wrote my last few notes where I think Ed was an opportunist. I do think he was a paranormal investigator. I think he had a lot of skeletons in his closet. You can tell through interviews that he definitely takes over a lot. When he's in negotiations with Lorraine, he likes to take over the conversation. I am the man, and I have the most to say, and people are going to find me most credible. And Lorraine was a little bit more quiet, and she was like the good Catholic girl, and I'm just sitting here being proper, and I'm just, yes, that's exactly what happened. And now that brings me to Tony Spera.
Here we go.
I don't like him.
Yeah.
I said it.
Yeah.
Judy, the daughter, does not want to have anything to do with, the Warrens' legacy. But she married a guy named Tony, who, as we all know, has taken over most of the Warrens' legacy, not by blood. And we all know the public fight that Zach had with him last fall, right? So you give me your 2 cents, because you've met Tony in person. You have shook his hand. You've taken photos with him. You've met Annabelle. You tell me, you go first. You give me your insight between who you saw in person versus him throwing absolute hysterical, obnoxious, childish fits online.
Yeah, it's really funny because when I was sitting down and watching the documentary and even like his interview footage, his persona on his interview is not what he's like in person. In person, he's very, like, kind of like what I've said before, he's a very forceful guy. He's very, by forceful, I just mean, like, with his words. Like, a lot of people really listen to him. He is very captivating. He knows how to captivate his audience, and I don't think in a very good way. He's a very...
I'm just going to put a little spice right there. Not in a good way, by the way.
Not in a good way. And he does not look at anybody when he talks to them.
Ooh, I don't trust a mofo who doesn't look me in the eyes, okay?
Yeah, so when we talked after the Annabelle, the Annabelle event, whatever, he would not look at me.
So wait, tell me, like, what you're shaking his hand. You're like, "Oh, hi, I'm Kat from Ghost Girl Diaries. Oh, nice to meet you." And where's he looking? Like, what's the conversation like?
He was looking down at the floor, and he was like pushing his ear towards me, kind of like he couldn't hear me. But there were a lot of people that had left the event after the black cloth was taken off the Annabelle doll because people were feeling very sick. So there weren't a ton of people in this like super small room. But he talked with me about like intention. I'll be honest, like I don't even really remember the question that I asked him, but he told me that intent is everything. And that if you have bad intent doing something, then, there's going to be consequences for that. But if you have good intent and you're, doing something for good or whatever, then good comes from that.
Do you think that he is mimicking Ed Warren's personality?
100%. They based off of, like, hearing the tapes and how it was portrayed.
Nikita just said at the same time, almost like Tony's the new Ed, right as we said that.
He is. I had actually talked about that with Krystal earlier. I said I think that Tony is literally identical to Ed because Ed taught him everything. Tony was actually a skeptic. And maybe he still is. Maybe he's putting up an act. Like, who knows the actual truth anymore, you know?
$1.7 million in assets will do a lot of talking, you know what I'm saying?
No kidding. Well, he told us in the room that we were in, because it was like a 3-hour event with him showing us like videos and tapes of like exorcisms and things like that, that he kept talking about himself a lot. And he was saying things like, I used to be a skeptic until Tony like brought me onto these investigations, and then I believed, like, it's very real, yada yada. But I used to have him on Facebook. We were Facebook friends for a while, and I was very creeped out by some of the things that he would post on there because he would do lives a lot with Annabelle. Like, he would be in the occult museum.
Wait a second. So you're saying that Zach had to pay him thousands of dollars to bring a doll across the United States. He had to buy a first-class ticket for him and the doll, a seat for the doll itself. He had to pay for everything first class. And he says that the doll is dangerous and he doesn't want anyone around it, yet he will do videos and Facebook Lives with the doll?
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like and what's even creepier is, like, it almost doesn't seem like he almost kind of seems like he's a little trancy when he goes on these lives, because sometimes he would go on and it would just be of him and Annabelle, and there would be no other lights on but this like glowing red light, which I would assume is like
the museum, the
alarm light or something, or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it was just glowing red, and it's literally of him just like staring at the camera with Annabelle behind him.
Doing what? Just sitting there?
Just standing there in front of the camera. And it would literally be like that to the point where he was standing there and staring for so long, I would think like the frame froze or something. And it was of him like trancing out, and then like 3 minutes later he would say things like, "I'm with the Annabelle doll right now," and yada yada yada. And then I'm like, yeah, no. Like, I'm done now. Like, he's Crow. You keep telling people to not challenge this thing. You keep doing like prayers during your events and things like that, but you're gonna sit here and do lives with her like every other day?
Personality fluctuates. Is that what you're trying to say?
Oh yeah, like I have no doubt in my mind that Annabelle really affects him because of the way that she really affects a lot of people, and she does put people in a weird trancy state a lot. It's happened to me too, and it's just very interesting. So
how do you feel about his combativeness publicly fighting with Zach?
Oh, it's childish. I think that he has a really big ego. And I think that when he doesn't have all the facts, or he thinks somebody else is not being honest or whatever, he goes on an ego trip because he has to always be right. And he acts like a child. That whole thing with Zach was absolutely unprofessional, completely unprofessional, especially if you're going to sit there and represent Ed and Lorraine Warren, before this information, we knew about this information.
Him? Well, yeah, what do you think about the legacy behind the Warrens? What do you think he's done to the legacy with the Warrens?
He's taken the pretty dollar. I also found it not surprising at all that towards the end of the documentary, he stated that shortly after Ed died, he got a call from Hollywood. I think there are no coincidences. I think that Lorraine at that point was tired, especially after Ed passing away, and maybe there is a sense of relief with that. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? And she didn't know what to expect. And she trusted Tony because Tony and Ed were like two peas in a pod. And Ed took the money and the legacy for the dollar.
Or you mean Tony?
And, yeah. Did I say Ed?
Yeah.
Oh, that was weird.
Well, they're so, like, identical. That's why.
They are. And he even had his own chair on set. He would take, like, selfies. Like, I would go through his profile, and, like, he had pictures on set and pictures on the red carpet. And it's like, so you're afraid to, like, bring the doll out, but you're okay with them not telling the full story in all of these other franchises? Like, I don't understand. It just doesn't make sense. There's no consistencies with anything. So I think that's why he gets triggered when people call him out or ask questions, which is totally okay, by the way. Like, it's okay to ask questions and wonder why, you know, things are the way they are, why he's not consistent with the things he says, but he gets triggered by that because he expects people to follow him and believe every word he says. So it's just part of that narcissism.
Manipulation, narcissism, extreme narcissism.
I feel bad for Judy and I feel bad for Lorraine.
Yeah.
Rest her soul. Rest her soul. She was still alive when I went to the event. And she died like a few days after.
Right, that's weird, isn't
the
it?
event. Yeah. Very peacefully from what was said, but
well,
sad.
I don't have any more tea, guys. That was a lot of tea.
Yeah.
So let's both give some final thoughts on what we feel about the Warrens. I'm gonna go first. Okay. I loved the Warrens. I grew up, as everyone has, idolizing them. I think, you know, Lorraine's absolutely clairvoyant. I think she's absolutely gifted. You can see it in the videos that she's doing in the interaction. I believe her. As far as Ed goes, I think he was a businessman. I think the only thing that he could contribute was capturing evidence on camera. But I kind of think other than that, and I believe what he captured was real. So I'm not disputing the paranormal evidence that he captured. But I think he was a businessman. I think he was an opportunist for sure. I think he found an opportunity. He could sly his way in. I've always thought that about Ed. But on the flip side, I didn't know about all of this scandal that went on in the court system with Hollywood and Warner Brothers until today. And it gave me a completely different view on the Warrens. I feel really, really bad for Lorraine. You know, obviously, why would you put that stuff in court? Like, they interviewed the woman that was the child, you know, like in court. Like, this stuff happened, guys. Like, it happened. It's in the court documents. And it's just sad. It's sad. Because then, like, now Ed's, like, image to me is completely tarnished. And I'm kind of sitting here laughing at full circle because you have Tony, who's an ass, and he's made himself an ass publicly. He's defending a legacy of Ed, who now has a horribly tarnished viewpoint on his soul and what he did while he was on this planet. So I don't know if Tony should be, you know, following those footsteps, because now he kind of looks like an idiot too. So I love Lorraine, bless her soul. I hope to God that she got peace, and I hope that Ed heals. And by the way, Ed was in a really bad boating accident. He talked about that. He was in World War II, which was the Nazi era. He said that he was in this boating accident in the Navy. He's a veteran. He fell in the water, the icy waters of the Atlantic. There was a gasoline fire that was surrounding him. He said the Mary prayer, the Mary Mother prayer, and that the fire split in two and went around them, and it opened up for a lifeboat to come in and rescue him and his friend. That was his near-death experience. Then he said he took survivor's leave, which I don't know what that is, and I'm very well versed in military terms. So, in fact, I made a call to see if they knew what that, people I know knew what that was, and they don't. So it must have been something from the past. This was before shell shock or PTSD was a thing. So, God only knows, did Ed hit his head when he fell in the water? He was put on survivor's leave and then went back into the military. Did he hurt his head? Did he have mental illness? Did he have a traumatic brain injury? Did he have, so that's a TBI, did he have PTSD? Did he have shell shock? Did he have bipolar, schizophrenia, something other than, you know, what was happening? Is the untreated mental illness what is, not that I'm excusing pedophilia, but like, he wasn't treated, obviously. He was in a bad accident, and they didn't believe in helping soldiers at that time. It's still like pulling teeth to get help for a veteran. So I'm just saying there's a lot more to this story that we're never going to know. They both took it to the grave. And I do know for a fact after reading those documents, let me actually, go ahead, Kat, you do yours. I'm gonna post some articles in here so that you guys can access them right now. Go ahead, Kat.
Okay. Yeah, I think just to piggyback off of Krystal, no pun intended, that I don't, like, we aren't saying this to say that they didn't have an impact on the paranormal community. You know, like, we know that they did, and the things that they did were incredible. you know? But there are no coincidences, and to be honest, like, everything kind of makes sense now. I don't know if either maybe Judy didn't have an idea of what was going on, but if she did, maybe that's why she's not a part of the legacy as much, and Tony kind of took control over it. I love Lorraine, and I do love Judy, and it's really sad that these things have happened, and I think as somebody else who really looked up to, like, Ed and Lorraine and their legacy and the things that they did for their community in, like, New England area, and especially being from New England, you know, it hit me really hard hearing all of this information, because I almost feel like I'm kind of mourning everything I thought I knew about the Warrens, and that's really difficult. And, you know, the truth comes out at some point, and it's a shame. It's a shame that this is what it's about. It's a shame. I feel so bad for Lorraine.
Now, you can do more digging than the articles I posted, but I didn't even finish going through court documents. I couldn't. There's so many. But literally hours. I was supposed to finish the documentary and rewatch it today, and I was literally looking through court documents all day. But these are some articles. Now, Hollywood Reporter is really good. That's a big company that filmmakers follow, and they basically will take contracts and, like, pick them apart. You know what I mean? Like, so they were talking about the actual contract that Lorraine had made with Warner Brothers. Because an affidavit isn't uncommon, but an affidavit that says you will not depict my husband as a sexual predator, that's uncommon. Okay? Like, that you don't hear of. So it's just messed up. It's just messed up, and it's sad. And
it is sad.
I wonder how much that author got from Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
It was probably a lot.
Yeah. It's just sad. It's really sad. I just feel like I'm kind of mourning everything at this point.
I'm going to a funeral today. I'm sorry, guys. I know. Well, that's all I've got. That was a lot of tea. I don't have any else. That was too much tea.
That was a lot of tea in a stream.
A lot of people weren't going to expect that. You know what I mean? Like, you guys are probably like, what did I just watch? I like
coming in hot.
Nikita said something so funny earlier. She said, "You've officially made it, Krystal. We bow down to you." Look, okay, I just try to find the truth, and there's a lot of people that don't want to know the truth.
Yeah.
They don't. People don't want to know, like, that could just destroy someone's image. That they idolize Ed, and like, that's going to destroy their idol. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
It's so bad.
You know, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. A lot to take in. But you guys should watch the documentary.
Yep.
And just to see for yourself, you know, and, you know, let us know your take on it too. Because I think we'd like to know. Yeah.
So next week I'm going to be talking about an asylum with Seth. So make sure you guys tune in for that. That's going to be a good one. Week is the third week of January is when EILFIE is going to come on with me. So EILFIE and I have been talking about streaming together for so long. Thank you, Laura, for the cheers. We appreciate you. EILFIE has been wanting to do streams with me for a while, so we're going to talk together about the Black Dahlia and Slender Man. So that's the tea for the rest of the month. And then the following week, which is the fourth week, Kat and I are going to talk about female cult leaders. Ooh.
It's going to be real good.
It's
going to be real good, guys.
And then the following week after that, EILFIE will be back on, and we're going to talk about H.P. Lovecraft and Necronomicon. So I'm really excited to have EILFIE in on this, too. So it'll be good.
It's going to be
great. In the next 60 days, I should know if I can release the Ghost Girl Diaries pilot on Amazon. So Kat's like, I'm waiting. I'm waiting. So yeah, in the next 60 days, the pilot itself is not going to get signed to a series. Like, if a series gets signed, we're going to have to reshoot everything. So I am going to take that one, and I am going to release it for you guys on Amazon. A lot of people wanted me to release it on YouTube, and here's why I'm not going to. I need some money back. I'm gonna be honest. It cost your girl a lot of money to make that thing, and it hurt when Chanel left financially, and I need some money back from it. I don't get a lot of money back from Amazon because they take royalties, and so I end up making sort of pennies on the dollar, but something's better than nothing. So yes, I am going to be releasing that, probably for not more than like $5 or $10. So it's not going to be out of this world. And then another thing that I'm going to be releasing, hopefully in the next week, I'm reformatting my ebook. And so I'm hoping that will be released in both print and ebook format on Amazon as well.
Yay! It's exciting.
The mofo tea, okay? That was a lot. Like, when I started finding those documents, I was like, oh my God, I have to go through all of these. Like, it's so bad.
Went down a dark rabbit hole. Putting the puzzle pieces together.
More then I'm like, she was pregnant. Like, what? You know what I mean? I'm like, what?
Plot twist.
Because I'm like, they're supposed to be this like perfect Catholic family. How did he get a 15-year-old girl to live with them? And like, why was Lorraine okay with him having sexual interaction with a 15-year-old girl? And she knew it. And then I'm like, then she like does this affidavit with the production company, and I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah. Talk about bringing in 2021. Coming in hot.
Yeah.
We're coming in hot.
Yeah, 5D, level up. Something. Jeez.
Something.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I appreciate you. Oh, one more thing I'd love to put out there. I have decided I'm going to make one attempt at reviving the old Ghost Girl Diaries channel. I'm going to make one attempt at it. And the attempt is this. I'm going to be downloading this video in the next day. And I'm going to upload this video to the old YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/ghostgirldiaries, all one word. Okay? What my plan is, I've heard through the grapevine that if your channel has been, with a shadow and then later with a ban, I can't say those words together.
Yes.
I have heard that if you promote a video using YouTube Google Ads, it will take your channel out of a ban and then again once with a shadow. Okay, I have heard that. I don't know if it's going to work, okay? But I'm gonna try. So I would love it if you guys could make sure you're still subscribed to the old channel, watch for notifications, and when it's uploaded, if you can see it, I would love if you could go comment on it, even if you're like, hey, what's up? Or like it. I just want to see if you guys can see it. Do you see what I'm saying? I just want to see if you guys can see it. And then tweet at me or like message me on Instagram. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it's there. Yet, no, it's not there. Because I'm going to put it in a Google ad and attempt to revive it. There are no promises. We're going to see what happens, because what I heard was if you pay YouTube or Google to promote it, they will take it out of that status. We'll see.
A certain status.
A certain
shadowy status.
We also don't say the name Paul with a low and a gain. You know what I'm saying? We don't say that together. We also don't say forests that do something when you accidentally kill yourself. We don't say that either.
Although I do have some tea about that.
What?
There may or may not be a certain court case going on where a certain someone is finally getting sued.
What?
Yep.
By who?
Someone.
YouTube or somebody else?
Someone outside of YouTube.
In the United States or in Japan?
United States.
With the low to the pollen?
Yes. Like the allergies, you know what I'm saying?
He is an allergy. He's an infection. He is Rona.
Like a virus. He's a virus.
He infected the whole paranormal community, like literally.
Yeah, I'll find the article and post it and see what you guys think.
Yeah, I need to see that tea. So anyway,
I'll send it.
We'll cross your fingers. If it revives, we're gonna go back to that, which I am gonna start doing uploads. If it revives. If it doesn't revive, I've already made another channel. So anyway,
yeah,
that's the tea.
Covered all bases. It's time.
I'm ready to go. You know, it's like 2021. Let's go. Like, drop everything. Go. Jesus. Oh my God. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please make sure you subscribe to our Twitch channel. Please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, please make sure you follow us everywhere on social media. We are everywhere. Look for Krystal Leandra, Ghost Girl Diaries, and Cat CORMIER. We'll see you guys next week, Friday, same time. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.
Next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.